Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. With nearly 2,500 agility attributes, the speed can be said to be extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the poisonous human-faced spider had already climbed up the cobwebs along the rockery, approaching the vines. Tear. Most of the vines were instantly cut open by the human-faced poisonous spider's feet. The remaining few rods passed through the gap to tie the battlefield treasures, and quickly pulled them back into the forest. Together with the beam of light wrapped around the treasures, they moved quickly, attracting the attention of the surrounding lords. Not good. The treasure was taken away. Come on. In exclamation, the lords killed the little spiders in the road one after another, called the troops to their side, and quickly approached the forest where Lin You was. Among these lords, 2 lords with extraordinary imposing manners, each with an 8th-tier troop, also found Lin You in the woods, and the vaguely visible plant troop. When they saw the giant vine that covered almost the entire forest, their expressions changed. What a perverted soldier. And it's still from the plant department. Could it be that he is that Lin You? It shouldn't be wrong. I heard that he is active in the east of the city. Then what should we do? Let's wait and see what happens first, and see if there is a chance to start. The 2 were not blinded by the treasures and joined the pursuit team. And right between their conversations, the human-faced poisonous spider has already chased into the woods with its terrifying speed. Wherever he went, all the trees, flowers, and plants were easily cut open and withered quickly. The terrifying power that was approaching immediately changed the expression of Lin You, who had just obtained the treasure, and immediately gave orders to the plants around him. Go, block it. The voice fell, and countless huge vines suddenly surged out of the woods, and hundreds of undead flowers surrounded the face of poisonous spiders. The spectacular scene suddenly shocked the lords who were chasing after them, and their faces were shocked. I know him. He is that Lin You. Immediately, someone recognized Lin Yu's identity and exclaimed. Lin You? The Lin You who was number 1 on the double list. That pervert who killed dozens of lords alone? I didn't expect him to come. All of a sudden, the lords became hesitant. Some lords were even more intimidated by Lin Yu's name. But there are still some people who are still staring at the battlefield treasure, showing greedy expressions, and do not leave immediately. And this time, the human-faced poisonous spider has also rushed into Lin Yu's sea of undead flowers. The spider legs danced wildly, and the undead flowers fell into pieces under its attack, and there was no enemy at all. Lingxi. Qingting. Lin Yu shouted loudly, and the Lingxi Qingting beside him started one after another. Huge vines surrounded the human-faced poisonous spider from all directions, and Lingxi in the air exploded with the power of nature, pointing out of thin air. A large piece of thorns rushed out from the ground, tying the body of the human-faced poisonous spider, and at the same time, the leaves falling from the sky turned into sharp blades and cut its body. Die. Die for me. Unexpectedly, the pain did not weaken the human-faced poisonous spider, but aroused its nature, and suddenly issued a shriek that shook the eardrums. The scream turned into a terrifying sound wave and swept out all around, shattering the gravel on the ground. Together with the vines of the ivy and the plant attack of Lingxi, they were all shaken out. Not to mention the undead flowers around. No one was spared, all died. Suddenly the whole forest was empty. At this time, the human-faced poisonous spider suddenly raised its head, stared at Lin You who was surrounded by troops, and rushed towards him. Lin You didn't expect this man-faced poisonous spider to be so difficult to deal with, his brows furrowed tightly. And the surrounding lords seemed to have started to move around because of the massive loss of his arms, and surrounded him, making him sink inwardly. It seems that these people are trying to take advantage of the fire. If that's the case, then he has nothing to keep. Qin Gang. With a loud shout, Qin Gang, who stood in front of him, let out a roar. In an instant, all plants were enveloped in red light, and all attributes increased by 30%. The human-faced poisonous spider, which was still rampant in the sea of undead flowers, was instantly blocked by two 8th order tree demons and flew out with a whip. When its body lost its balance in the air, the vines all over the ivy rose into the sky, turned into spikes, and went straight to meet it. Puff! Without any suspense, the human-faced poisonous spider's body was instantly pierced, and in a shrill howl, he died on the spot. It also stopped the lords who had just approached, their faces full of astonishment. An 8th order, chaotic monster with such abnormal attributes. Just so dead. However, they were not given a chance to react at all, and the entire imperial garden began to float from the sky, and swiftly shot towards them. What? 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 A series of screams echoed in the imperial garden. Under the 30% attribute bonus, Lin Yu's strength has reached a very terrifying level. Those 6th order lords didn't see clearly at all, their throats were instantly penetrated, and there was no chance for the troops to return to defense. In the blink of an eye, swarms of lord troops fell, making those lords who had not yet rushed up shuddered. Strange monster. At this moment, how could they have the courage to provoke Lin You again? All of them turned pale in shock, and hurriedly fled here with their troops. Even the two distant lords with 8th order arms looked at each other and saw the solemnity and shock in each other's eyes. Let's get out of here first. It is good. With the strength that Lin You has shown now, let alone an 8th rank, even if you give them 2 or 3, I am afraid that they will not get any benefits, and staying here will only be a dead end. It was only at this time that they finally realized Lin Yu's terrifying strength and completely dispelled the idea of going against him. That's all. In the royal garden, the lord ran away, and he disappeared in a blink of an eye. No one dared to stay nearby, for fear that Lin You would suddenly rush out to chase and kill them. When no one else could be seen, Lin Yukai said to Luo Lei, who had been stunned by his side, "You and Lin You go to see if there are any who are still alive, make up for the knife, and get some resources." Ah? Oh, well, let's go. Luo Lei and Su Xiongdong reacted, and immediately followed Lin You with great excitement, looking for fish that slipped through the net. As for Lin You, he looked at the prompt just now. This time, he killed a total of 14 lords and gained 620,000 mana, which made his total mana soar to 2.3 million. Sure enough, the more to the end, the richer the lords are. It's just a pity that none of these lords carry battlefield treasures, otherwise he could earn more. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the thing he just got in his hand. A strange crystal like a broken heart. Army treasure, unyielding heart. Treasure type, special. Treasure level, E level. Treasure effect, after a unit is fatally wounded, there is a 5% chance that it will not die immediately and will be immune to all damage for 5 seconds. Introduction. The secret treasure used to strengthen arms can be used in arm bases to strengthen a single type of arm. This is a military treasure? Lin You was surprised. Unexpectedly, this is the secret treasure of the arms that he has never seen before. And the effect is extremely powerful, allowing troops to gain 5 seconds of invincibility before dying. Although this time is very short, it is still triggered by probability, but it can play a role in turning the tide of the battle at a critical moment, which is a very good effect. But what Lin You cared about most was its level, which was actually the same as the Lord's evaluation level. Could it be that there will be A-level treasures with more powerful effects, or even SSS-level treasures? The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't help but look forward to it. He wanted to hurry back to the territory to try this new thing, and by the way, to find out where the more advanced secret treasure was going to be obtained. His Majesty. Unexpectedly, a weak female voice suddenly sounded from the side. Lin You was startled, and quickly looked around. He should have killed all the lords nearby, how could a woman's voice suddenly appear? However, when he followed the reputation, he found that the person who spoke was actually a poisonous spider with a human face that had fallen to the ground, looking at the sky with a pale face. Did not die? Lin You hurriedly put away the secret treasures of the arms, and carefully came to the vicinity of the human-faced poisonous spider. I saw her mad face, now clear and bright, showing endless sadness and desolation, as if she knew that her death was coming. If it weren't for the spider's body, it would be just like a living person. Today's human-faced poisonous spider, let's call it the dying king concubine for the time being. Seeing Lin You appear, the princess moved her eyes and cast a grateful look at him. Stranger, thank you for letting me finally get rid of. Her voice is very thin and soft. It's really hard to imagine that she is the human-faced poisonous spider who killed without blinking just now. Lin You cautiously did not approach, but asked slowly, "Are you, the princess of the Dying Kingdom?" "Is the princess?" The princess murmured, then coughed violently. Every time she coughed, a large amount of blood would flow out of her mouth, staining the ground beneath her red. Then came the endless grief. "Yeah, before the disaster, I was still the princess of the Dying Kingdom. I always thought that His Majesty expelled me from the palace, because he hated me. It turns out, I was wrong in the beginning. Your Majesty just wanted me to get out of here, ahem." While talking, the princess began to cough violently again, and it was much worse than before. She seemed to feel that her death was approaching. She moved her body with difficulty, took out a jade pendant that shone with dim light from her waist, and looked at Lin You pleadingly. "Stranger, please help me. Leave this in His Majesty's hands. Just say, Yuan has been waiting for him." Looking at the jade pendant handed over by the other side tremblingly, Lin You was silent, already vaguely guessing what happened. He looked at the pleading eyes of the other party, and the 2 lines of clear tears on his face, so he let the vine reach over and took the jade pendant, and said lightly, "I can't guarantee it will be delivered, but I will deliver it if I have the chance." The princess did not speak. Looking at the jade pendant that Lin You took over, he finally showed a smile, and then his arms softened and he collapsed completely. After all, Lin You still didn't have time to ask more about this battlefield. Looking at the face that has completely lost its vitality in front of him. "No, princess, his mood is extremely complicated. Obviously. When the disaster came, the king of the Dying Kingdom had a premonition that the crisis was coming, and used an excuse to expel the princess from the palace, trying to keep her safe. Unexpectedly, not only did the princess not leave, but when the disaster broke out, because of the misunderstanding of the king, she had a strong resentment and finally mutated into a monster and kept guarding in the imperial garden. Come to think of it, this imperial garden should be the place where the 2 of them often come." With a slight sigh, Lin You put away the jade pendant. At this moment, Luo Lei, who went out to pick up the leeks, also came back with Lingxi, with joy on their faces. "How is it? Is there any gain?" Lin You asked. "Well, we happened to meet 2 people who were still breathing, and we solved them all." Luo Lei replied again and again, and there was an undisguised excitement in his words. "After killing the Lord, his magic energy has risen to more than 200,000. If this was in the past, he would never have imagined it. As long as he has this resource, after he goes back, he will definitely be able to develop his territory well and gain a firm foothold in the next battle of Wanjie. Just settle it, get ready, it's time to go." Lin You nodded silently and didn't say anything more. The reason why he gave the 2 of them resources was because they were easy to use. Anyway, he didn't lack that magic energy, so soon, they continued on their way. With hundreds of troops, he walked mightily among the palaces, cleaning up zombies along the way, and supplementing the number of undead flowers by the way. "After all, I just lost so much." However, Lin You didn't know. At this time, in the southwest direction of the palace, there was a team that directly gave up the treasure competition, and had already come to the depths of the palace while they were fighting for the treasure. There is only a distance of 7 or 8 kilometers away from the other side flower. Haha, those fools would never have thought that we would get here so quickly. I guess they are still working hard for battlefield treasures? Fight, fight. The longer you fight, the better. Although treasures on the battlefield are precious, they are nothing compared to that thing. Just work harder, and in front of you is the Jinluan Hall. With a loud shout, several people took the troops all the way to cut through the thorns and wiped out the zombies. Their strength is not weak, almost everyone has an 8th order arm, and the rest are all 7th order. Even if they occasionally encountered 8th order zombies, they were all killed together, which basically did not cause much hindrance to their pace. And so on all the way, until the sun gradually goes down. A magnificent hall, covered with gray-white rhizomes, finally appeared in their sight. The 3 characters' golden throne hall hang high above the gate of the hall. Here, it is the place where the kings of all dynasties went to the early court, and it is also the largest palace in the entire palace. Looking at it from a distance, you can feel an unparalleled solemnity that is completely different from other buildings, which is overwhelming. Several lords were very excited, looking at the other side flowers on the golden palace, and the dark clouds that were constantly gathering in the sky. Let's go. Let's go in and take a look. That thing must be in there, and we must not let people from other realms take the lead. Saying that, they called their troops to their side, cleaned up all the zombies outside the main entrance of the Golden Palace Hall, and then slowly walked into the hall one step at a time. It's just that when they passed through the gate of the vast palace with excitement, but found a lonely figure in a dragon robe sitting on the dragon chair, silently watching their arrival. It's been 100 years. Finally, someone is here again. A distant and deep voice echoed above the hall. The expressions of several lords changed, and they looked at the figure slowly standing up from the dragon chair with a look of astonishment. When they saw the information panels pop up in front of them, they all trembled, and they were terrified to the extreme. It was like seeing the most terrifying thing in the world. 10. What? The shrill screams instantly spread throughout the entire palace. The Jingluan Hall, which had been noisy because of their intrusion, fell silent again, as if no one had ever appeared. Vaguely, you can also see corpses hanging above the palace by gray-white rhizomes, constantly sucking blood. The other side flower above the main hall has also become a bit more coquettish. The other side. After an afternoon's advance, Lin You and the others, as well as the lords of other realms, have basically arrived near the area where the Golden Palace is located. It's just that because of the previous battle for treasures on the battlefield, the progress has been slowed down a lot. Until it was getting dark, they failed to break out of the zombie encirclement and went to the Golden Palace. And for some unknown reason, the closer to the night, the 8th order zombies began to gradually increase, and it was almost impossible to rush over in one breath. It seems that we can only rest for a night in the nearby palace, before moving. Looking at the huge other side flower that was already close at hand, Lin You said to Luo Lei and the 2 beside him. After the night, the zombies' mobility will be slightly improved, and it is necessary to guard against the sneak attack of the 8th order zombies that may appear at any time. It is too dangerous to act. Although there are many plants around him now, he still doesn't want to take this risk and chooses to rest for a night before talking about it. Tomorrow is the last day. There will definitely be many lords rushing here to the last treasure. I don't know what it will be like, Luo Lei said with some concern. There is also the poison circle outside. It is estimated that tomorrow it will shrink into the palace and force all the lords in. Su Xiongdong took his words and was also a little worried. If it wasn't for Lin Yu this time, they were probably killed when the poison circle contracted for the second time. Then it becomes an emotionless zombie, wandering around in this world, or being killed by other lords. It's scary to think about. Go and rest after eating. There will be a fierce battle tomorrow. Lin Yu retracted his gaze, turned his head and said to the 2 of them, Is Boss Lin Yu going to the faith orb that finally appeared? Luo Lei asked. When Su Xiongdong heard the words, he couldn't help but look at him. Well, I will definitely get the faith orb, but the most important thing is to go to the palace to see it. Lin Yu's eyes were deep, and he glanced at the palace under the flower on the other side. It can make the lords of so many realms want to get it, and even enter the number 1 battlefield with a stuck level. There must be some unknown secrets hidden in that palace. Luo Lei and the 2 naturally knew this, and their expressions gradually became solemn. Then, the 3 of them gathered next to the fire to have something to eat, and after discussing their plans for tomorrow, they went to the adjacent rooms to rest. The entire palace also fell into a dead silence again because of the nightfall. Yet no one noticed. When the night completely enveloped the entire palace, the other side flower above the golden palace suddenly opened slowly, and a large amount of powder was sprinkled around, which spread to the entire palace with the night wind. And the rhizomes on the ground also made a rustling sound, and gradually began to swim on the ground. Okay? I do not know how long it has been. Lin You woke up from his sleep. When I opened my eyes, the sun was shining brightly through the window. Outside the window, the whistle of the car and the chaotic noise were constantly heard. Lin You looked at the clock on the wall, then looked at the computer in front of him that had its screen closed, and the mountains of documents on the side, and was stunned. Immediately afterwards, his eyes suddenly widened. Wasn't this in the company he was in before the collapse of 10,000 realms? What exactly happened? In shock, Lin You stood up and looked around. The familiar checkered seat, the familiar printer, the vending machine standing at the end of the corridor, and even the suit on him were exactly the same as he remembered. It left him dumbfounded and his mind went blank. Isn't he, in the battlefield of 10,000 realms? Why did it suddenly appear here? Is it a hallucination? Lin You stretched out his hand and pinched his cheek hard, a familiar pain hit him, making him grin for a while. It is true. How can that be? Lin You was shocked to the extreme and looked at everything around him in disbelief, as well as the colleagues who filed in at the door. At this moment, a hello suddenly sounded behind him. Lin You, good morning, did you deal with documents overnight again? As the voice fell, a gentle beauty in a short workwear skirt and a long hair shawl came to him with a faint smile on her face. Even from a distance, you can smell a faint floral fragrance, which is refreshing. Lin You remembered that this is the goddess in the hearts of all the male compatriots in the company Yang Wanqin. Even he had secretly had a crush on Yang Wanqin. It's just that he only had work in his heart at the beginning, and he was not good at words, so he basically just watched from a distance. Belongs to the kind of color-hearted but not courageous. Looking back now, I was really young at that time. Yes. At that time. Lin You sighed in his heart and gradually calmed down. The young Wanqin in her memory will not greet him with a smile like she does now, nor will there be such an obvious floral fragrance. This fragrance, he had only smelled it when he was close to the other side of the flower. Come out, stop pretending to be a ghost. With a low drink, he saw through this illusion directly. Immediately afterwards, the picture in front of him was frozen, and then shattered into thousands of pieces. And he finally woke up again and appeared in the palace. Looking outside, it was already the next morning. Lin You was extremely surprised, and immediately rushed out of the room, and saw a large number of surging gray-white rhizomes, frantically surrounding him. Fortunately, there were plants blocking him, so he survived. Looking at the distance, a terrifying red cloud is constantly gathering on the other side flower that stands between the heavens and the earth. And those gray-white rhizomes, as if they suddenly had life, danced wildly around the other side of the flower. There were actually many lords who were entangled in rhizomes, drained their blood, and fell down into mummified corpses. From all directions in the palace, there were bursts of fierce fighting sounds. Obviously, there are already lords like him who broke free from the illusion of the other side of the flower and are resisting the attacks of those rhizomes. What happened? Boss Lin You, what happened? After a while, Luo Lei and Su Shangdong also woke up from the illusion, screaming and running outside. I can tell. The illusion of the other shore flower is not too strong. It's just to make them temporarily lost so that they can make a sneak attack. What Lin You didn't expect the most was the other side flower itself. It will go berserk on the last day, and it is the period from night to early morning when the lords are the weakest. This is absolutely beyond everyone's expectations. Looking at this, I am afraid that many lords have been brutally murdered. Be careful, this thing will human blood. Lin You turned around and shouted to Luo Lei and the two of them, then immediately came to the side of the plants and began to direct them to resist the attacks around them, while observing the movements of the other side of the flower. as predicted. After sucking fresh flesh and blood, the petals of the other side flower began to turn redder and brighter. Even the red clouds that are constantly gathering in the sky are the same, almost dyeing the entire sky blood red. As if it is about to drip blood, the picture looks extremely strange. Even faintly, Lin You could see a crack in the sky through the red cloud, a huge crack connecting the heaven and the earth. That appearance is actually very similar to the crack in the sky above the primordial realm. And much bigger. This discovery suddenly made his heart tremble, and a terrible guess suddenly appeared in his heart. Just don't wait for him to think about it. There was a sudden click in the sky, opening a larger opening. In an instant, the storm surged. A blood-red beam of light rose into the sky and appeared between the heavens and the earth, causing the entire battlefield to vibrate violently. At the same time, a reminder sounded in the minds of all the lords. Lords, please note that the source of the plague has appeared, and the area of the poisonous fog will shrink in advance. At that time, the battlefield will be reduced to half of its original size, so please be prepared. The scope of the poison circle has narrowed, which is no surprise to the lords. So it didn't cause much reaction. But what everyone didn't expect was that after the reminder of the poison circle ended, another reminder sounded immediately. Lords, please note that the gate on the other side opened, and a large amount of chaos chi poured into the battlefield. Infected by the chi of chaos, all monsters on the battlefield will be transformed into chaotic monsters, please be careful. Fuck. Chaos monster? Did you make a mistake? How come chaotic monsters appear on the battlefield? What is the other side gate? Damn. The attributes of those zombies have really increased. The lords exclaimed again and again, all of them were shocked by the sudden reminder, and desperately resisted. The only thing fortunate is that after the sun rose, the rhizomes of the other shore flowers finally stopped attacking and quickly shrank back. Let them finally get a chance to breathe. Come on, let's go over there and see. Lin You made a decisive decision, said something to Luolei and the two beside him, and immediately summoned the plant core to leave the yard and hurried towards the Golden Palace. Along the way, I really encountered many chaotic zombies, all of which have increased their attributes by 20% compared to yesterday. The 7th order ones can be said to be able to stack up with crowd tactics, the 8th order ones can't. They can only rely on Lingxi Qingting to kill them one by one, which greatly slows down the speed of progress. Even his flower of death is dead and alive, alive and dead. It was only a distance of less than 10 kilometers, and it took 2 hours to get there. When they arrived at the square in front of the palace, other lord teams appeared one after another in all directions. However, they did not directly pinch them, but were deeply shocked by the scene in front of them, and their eyes widened one by one. What's this? One of the lords raised his head and looked at the terrifying crack in the sky that covered almost half of the sky, in shock. How does this look? A bit like a crack that appeared after the luck was deprived. Another lord exclaimed. As soon as these words came out, all the lords including Lin You were shocked, and finally confirmed the guess in their hearts. This crack. It really is the crack that appeared above the continent after the luck was deprived. In other words, the battlefield they are in is actually a continent where all other luck has been deprived. This time, Lin You was completely shocked. He always thought that after all the luck was deprived, the entire continent would collapse in an instant and perish in the endless void. But I didn't expect that it would be 100 times more miserable than this. It doesn't kill you straight away, but let you slowly die in the torment of disaster. So, the zombies they encountered along the way were all mutated from the residents of the capital of Dying Kingdom after their luck was deprived? How desperate is that? This? If the luck of our primitive continent is deprived, will it become like this? Luolei's voice trembled. He now finally understands why those zombies know how to attack their lord first. I am afraid that many of these zombies were also lords during their lifetimes. Just like them. Not to mention Luolei, even Su Shangdou on the side looked a little ugly, even pale. After all, No one wants to see themselves become zombies and be killed as monsters by the lords of other realms, so it is better to die directly. So this is the secret hidden in battlefield number 1? Lin You murmured silently, his eyes could not help falling to the center of the square, above the magnificent hall. If it is said that this is the predecessor of a certain realm, then the identity of the king of the dying kingdom will be clearly revealed. Therefore, Lin You did not rush to approach the palace, but chose to watch from a distance on the edge of the square. Sure enough, it didn't take long for a group of lords to be impatient. They walked up the stairs with the troops around them and walked into the hall. When the other lords saw this, they couldn't wait to keep up, for fear that the treasure would be preempted by the other party. After a while, the lords of these teams disappeared from the sight of everyone. What? What? Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the palace. The other lords who had wanted to get closer were suddenly shocked and stopped. Then, the voices in the palace quickly disappeared, as if nothing had happened, and the surroundings were terribly silent. All dead. A lord who was about to walk up the stairs swallowed his saliva, with a strong sense of horror in his eyes. Even those lords who had high self-esteem and had 8th-tier troops around them instantly dismissed the idea of entering the palace and chose to wait and watch outside for a while secretly vigilant, for fear that some monster would suddenly rush out from inside. And over time, more and more lords rushed here, making the entire hall square become lively, and lords of various races began to appear. For example, the Sea Clan, the Demon Clan, the Demon Clan, the Beast Clan, the Spirit Clan, etc., all have morphological characteristics that are completely different from the human clan. There are even many races that have never been seen before and cannot be named, which makes people dazzled. But the most eye-catching of them is Lin You. No way, because the ivy beside him is too big. Coupled with the extremely exaggerated number of arms, it is difficult not to pay attention. It also attracted many lords to discuss in private. He should be the Lin You on the list, right? It's the first time I've seen such a perverted unit. And those piranhas, I'm afraid there are thousands. This number is too exaggerated. How can the 6th Order Lord have so many troops? Let's be careful in a minute, don't get close to him. What are you afraid of? There are so many lords here, and there are not a few with the 8th Order. When the time comes to fight, he may not be able to get benefits by himself. I feel so too. Really? At this time above the main hall square, there are many lords who have 8th-tier troops. At most, Lin You can only be said to be afraid, but not to the point of fear. After all, many of them have never seen Lin You take action, and their understanding of Lin You is still based on rumors. Rumors are always more exaggerated than facts. No matter how powerful you are only one person, can you still withstand so many sieges of the 8th Order? So soon, everyone's attention shifted from Lin You to the Golden Palace again. But he didn't notice that in the crowd, there were many lords who had seen Lin Yu's shot with their own eyes, and they all retreated in panic. Damn it! That pervert really came too. Let's go, don't be caught by him. A group of idiots, they don't really think that they can win with more people, right? What about him? It's best if he's dead. These lords, especially those who had experienced group battles with Lin You and survived by chance, were very aware of Lin Yu's horror. It's definitely not about numbers alone. How dare to stay, one by one withdrew from the square in front of the palace, and directly gave up the competition for the final treasure. Just at this moment, a beam of light in the sky arrived as promised, crashing down toward the battlefield. Lords, the ultimate treasure on the battlefield, the advanced faith orb is about to appear. Using high-level faith orbs can directly obtain 1000 faith power. The treasure will appear in half an hour until the battlefield is closed. Fuck. The ultimate treasure has become 1000 faith power. Isn't it just 500 points? What's the matter? How did the treasure get upgraded? 1000 faith power, I may not get it for a year. This is too strong. No. Something's wrong. That treasure seems to be falling into the Golden Palace. The lords exclaimed again and again, www.mtnovel.com. 1 second they were still excited about the reward upgrade, and the next second their expressions changed immediately. Because the place where the beam of light fell, it was right in the center of the golden palace. Under the gaze of their amazed eyes, they suddenly fell and disappeared into the palace. This time everyone was stunned. You look at me, I look at you, the face is uncertain. But at this moment, a terrifying and boundless power suddenly erupted in the palace and swept out all around. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and the whole ground shook violently. The golden palace, which was wrapped by the rhizomes of the other side of the flower, actually began to have cracks and continued to spread upward. No, the golden palace is about to collapse, run away. The faces of the lords changed greatly, and with a loud exclamation, they quickly evacuated to the surrounding of the square with their respective arms, and all looked at the stone pillars that gradually collapsed in shock. Even the gate of the palace collapsed quickly with a loud bang. At the same time, a loud voice resounding through the heavens, and the earth suddenly exploded in the palace. It's been 100 years, a whole 100 years, and the gate of the other side has finally been opened by me, and I can finally leave this ghost place, ha ha ha. Deafening laughter, accompanied by the smoke and dust of the palace, swept all around. A figure surrounded by blood energy and tentacles all over his body slowly lifted into the air and gradually appeared in everyone's sight. The boundless terrifying aura and the suffocating sense of oppression instantly made all the lords tremble. 10th Order. This moment. Everyone was stunned. No matter what, they would never have thought that there would be a 10th Order existence in the number 1 battlefield. The tyrannical breath was so overwhelming that they were almost breathless. Even Lin You, who had already vaguely guessed the truth, was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him, and looked in horror at the attribute interface that appeared in his eyes. Name, King of Dian Kingdom, Source of Plague. Race, Humanoid. Level 10. Strength? Constitution? Agile? Spirit? Skill? Frenzy Mind? Introduction. Once the King of Dian Kingdom, because of the erosion of the other side of the flower, he has completely lost his mind and fell into a frenzy. Monster Panel. This is the attribute panel of the King of the Wild Goose Kingdom. It turned out to be like a monster, and it was still a 10th Order monster. How could there be such terrifying existence in this 6th Order battlefield? How is that possible? Why are there 10th Order monsters in the 10,000 Realms battlefield? Su Xiangdong said in shock. It was precisely because of his words that Lin You reacted immediately. Really? The battlefield of 10,000 Realms has always acted according to the rules. If there is really a behind-the-scenes manipulator behind all this, if you want to kill them all, you don't need so much trouble at all. You can kill them all with the poison circle directly. Why do you need to come up with a 10th Order? Not to mention that this King of Wild Goose is still the source of the plague designated by the battlefield mission. The system should not issue such an impossible mission. Is it? In this battlefield, there is still a hidden solution, but they didn't notice it? It's a pity that King Dian didn't give them a chance to think too much. After the palace collapsed, his body slowly rose into the sky, fused with the stamen of the other side flower, and directly became a part of the other side flower. Immediately afterwards, a boom explosion suddenly sounded in the entire palace, and it began to vibrate violently. What's the matter? What happened? Could it be an earthquake? It seems to be outside the palace. The lords who had just entered the palace stopped and looked around in panic. However, when they raised their heads and looked outside the palace, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. They even opened their mouths one by one, their faces full of astonishment. What did they see? The blood-colored rhizomes that rose up into the sky surrounded the entire palace. Then, with a loud bang, it kept closing in on the interior of the palace. Wherever he went, the palace walls collapsed and the ground cracked. It actually blocked all their escape routes and built a terrifying blood-colored cage around the palace. No. It wants to force us all into the palace. Run away. The lords who were on the edge of the palace exclaimed and became a mess. Some chose to flee to the interior of the palace, while others rushed to the rapidly gathering rhizomes with their troops, trying to rush out of the cage. Available in the next second. Scary faces suddenly appeared on those blood-colored rhizomes, emitting bursts of piercing screams. At the same time, countless gray-white rhizomes and zombies began to emerge from under the cracked land, and surrounded the lords who wanted to escape. What? A shrill scream resounded from all corners of the palace. None of the lords could successfully escape the siege of the cage, and all of them were drained of blood or divided by zombies on the spot. The terrifying scene immediately made the lords in the square in front of the hall horrified and their eyes widened. This is a bird cage. Lin You was in shock, looking at the blood-colored cage that was shrinking on the edge of the palace. Isn't it the same as his vine cage? And it was even more exaggerated and grander, almost covering the entire palace. He actually wanted to gather all the lords in the palace together and devour them all. Quick! Run to the sky! At this time a lord finally reacted in the square in front of the hall, and hurriedly mounted his flying unit and flew high into the sky. I want to escape from the palace while the cage is completely closed. When other lords with flying arms saw this, they followed suit and flew into the sky with their respective arms. However, in the next second, a wild laughter from King Dian suddenly came from the side. Ha ha ha, want to escape? Stay with me and go to Jijia. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of breaking air sounded one after another. As soon as those lords flew into the air, tentacles all over the sky rushed out from around the other side of the flower, tying them one by one while they were in a panic. Come on, come and be a part of me, don't resist. King Dian's face was distorted, and while laughing wildly, he controlled his tentacles to drag the lords to the stamens of the other side of the flower. And among the stamens, twisted faces and dense arms also began to appear, and the scalp of the lord below was numb. Not to mention the Tide Lords. All turned pale, struggling desperately. Let go of me. You monster. No. I don't want to die yet, who will save me? Save me. Come and save me. However, no matter how they shouted and struggled, they couldn't break free from the tentacle shackles. In the blink of an eye, he fell into the stamens, was drowned by countless arms, and let out a shrill scream, and finally gradually merged with the stamens, leaving no bones behind. The whole process only lasted less than half a minute. The rest of the lords were even more shocked. There are 10th order monsters in front, and blood-colored cages and zombie tides in the back. They are like birds in a bird cage, and they are in a dilemma at once. Boss Lin You, what should we do? At this rate, we will all be eaten by this monster before noon. Luo Lei said anxiously, and turned into an ant on a hot pan. And just as they were thinking about countermeasures, screams and shouts continued to come from all directions in the palace. More and more lords flocked to the square, making the whole square crowded. But they didn't have the heart to fight at this time, and they were all desperately resisting the rhizomes and zombies that emerged from all directions. Even Lin You couldn't be spared, so he could only let the plants join the battle, keep those monsters away, and at the same time think fast. Judging from the current situation, it is almost impossible for them to escape from the cage. Moreover, the cage shrinks very fast, and it is impossible to persist until noon when the teleportation is turned on. In other words, the only thing they can do is to destroy the body of the other side flower, the king of the wild goose kingdom. Anyway, both sides are dead, it is better to fight. Seeing that the cage had shrunk to half of the palace, Lin You finally felt a ruthless heart, and slowly approached the other side of the flower with the plant army. This move immediately changed the expressions of Luo Lei and the two of them. Boss Lin You, what are you doing? It's too dangerous over there. How dangerous? At this time, there are already dense tentacles around the other side of the flower, dancing wildly in the air. All the lords who dared to approach would be entangled by those tentacles, dragged into the stamens, and become food for the other side of the flower. Now that it's over, it's tantamount to dying. If you are afraid, you can hide to the side first. There is one thing I have to try. Lin You said to the two of them without looking back, without any intention of stopping. Luo Lei Su Shandong hesitated after hearing the words, and looked at the surrounding square, which was already a mess, and the cage that was approaching. Finally, he gritted his teeth and followed in Lin Yu's footsteps. Forget it, if you stay anyway, you will die. I believe in the boss of Lin Yu. Me too. Okay, wait for you to be careful, don't get entangled by those tentacles, I may not be able to take care of you. With a brief explanation, Lin Yu took the plants to speed up and approached the other side of the flower. That act of being sent to death immediately attracted the attention of other lords. What's the matter? Isn't he afraid of death? How dare he approach that monster? He doesn't think he can deal with 10th order monsters, does he? You idiot, don't worry about him. It's better for us to stay away, so as not to be implicated by him. And while they were talking about it, Lin Yu also brought the plants to the hall. Oncoming are the blood-colored tentacles twisting wildly in the air, and the distorted king wild goose. Oh? Do you want to be one with me too? Come on then, go to the world with me. Ha ha ha. The wild laughter that can't tell the difference between men and women keeps echoing in his ears. Those tentacles that were walking in the air all turned their direction and shot towards Lin Yu. The speed was even faster than any monster Lin Yu had ever seen. Without the need for an order at all, Qing Gang in the vine forest suddenly let out a roar, and a large red light enveloped all the plants. At the same time, the giant vines around Qingting burst out of the air, and quickly met those tentacles. Ling Xi's movements were not slow, the force of nature on the staff erupted, and the wood thorns in the sky condensed in the air, turning into Dao Dao shadow swept to King Dian. Careful! Unexpectedly, Luo Lei behind him suddenly let out an exclamation. After the vines of Qingting collided with those tentacles, they were instantly blown into a mess, and together with Ling Xi's wooden thorns, they were also thrown away, and there was no way to cause any damage. And after defeating the offensive of the two, those tentacles continued to cast their force and attacked Lin Yu in the vine forest. Turtle Shield Mirror Wall. At this moment, the mysterious tortoise equipped on the ancient war tree shone with light, condensing several defensive mirror walls in front. Those ancient trees of war and flowers of death also appeared crazily, blocking Lin Yu's front. Puff! Without the slightest stagnation, the tentacles penetrated the lens wall, penetrated a large body of plant troops, and came to Lin Yu in a blink of an eye. Boom! With a violent explosion, all the units within the range were instantly killed. Although Lin Yu dodged in time, he was blasted away by the terrifying Yue, and a mouthful of blood spurted out and fell to the ground. Just one hit. It broke all his defenses. Is this the true strength of the 10th order? Lin Yu was shocked to the extreme. When he saw that King Liuhua was killed by King Xingyao, he didn't feel anything. But when he really faced it, he finally deeply realized the horror of the 10th order. It's not something he can resist at all. Without even giving him a chance to react, those tentacles were pulled out from the ground again and surrounded him in a blink of an eye. Not good. Lin Yu's face changed wildly. Just as he was about to escape, his feet were tied and he was suddenly dragged into the sky. Boss Lin Yu! Luo Lei shouted in surprise. The sudden change made them both panic. The offensive of the 10th order monsters is too fast, and they don't give them a chance to think. Even those troops that wanted to rush to rescue were easily blasted away by tentacles, killing one in seconds, leaving the entire plant army instantly empty. And Lin Yu, who was seriously injured, was also dragged to the other side of the stamens and brought to the King of Dian. Come on, go to the realm with me, get rid of this eternal reincarnation, and go to find true freedom. King Dian laughed wildly, his expression seemed to be much more distorted than before, and most of his entire body was already integrated with the other side of the flower. The strong aura on his body almost made Lin Yu faint. And the soaring evil spirit in the sky seems to tear the whole sky apart. Lin Yu knew that this was his last chance. It was also the only chance for him to get close to the king of the Wild Goose Kingdom. Seeing the other side of the flower stamens getting closer and closer to him, those dense palms began to stretch towards him. He suddenly turned his palm, and a jade pendant appeared in his hand. As soon as the jade pendant appeared, a dazzling light suddenly burst out, instantly wrapping him in King Dian. In an instant, the aura around him was washed away and turned into a hazy scene. Really useful. Lin You was very excited. Unexpectedly, the jade pendant obtained from the princess turned out to be the key to solving this crisis. I saw it wrapped in the light of the jade pendant. An illusory figure, gradually condensed. Dressed in white clouds, her beauty is astonishing, like a fairy walking out of a painting, slowly drifting towards King Dian. Originally, his eyes were red and he looked like a mad goose king. It actually stopped gradually, and looked at the figure with a dull expression. Jade, Huan. A hoarse voice came from his throat. His eyes finally gradually recovered, and 2 lines of blood and tears flowed down his face. Your Majesty, come with me. The princess called out softly and reached out to stroke King Dian's cheek. Her voice was like smoke and fantasy, but it seemed to have some kind of magic power, which shocked King Dian and instantly woke up. He stretched out his hand tremblingly, grabbed the verdant jade hand of the princess, gently embraced the princess in his arms, and looked at each other affectionately. It was as if there were only the 2 of them left in the world. So, have you been waiting for me? Well, always. The princess looked at King Dian with an expression of joy and lingering sadness at the reunion after a long absence. Your Majesty, we no longer belong to this world. Yeah, it didn't belong 100 years ago. The king of Dian Kingdom sighed, and the last trace of evil spirit in his eyes dissipated. There was a deep sense of loneliness and unwillingness in those words. But in the end, he still sighed, looked at the princess, and said deep and gentle, "Okay, let's go." In an instant, all tentacles stopped attacking, and even the cages and zombie tides that had shrunk to the vicinity of the square also stopped. Then, under the wrapping of a ray of light, it gradually melted and turned into white beams of light soaring into the sky. The spectacular scene immediately attracted the attention of all the lords. What's the matter? Why did the monster suddenly stop attacking? Look at the sky. The red clouds are gone. What's the situation? Is this battlefield about to collapse? No, look at the other side flower, it seems to be withering. The lords exclaimed and looked at the other side flowers above the ruins of the palace. I saw that under the package of the white light beam, the other side of the flower withered rapidly, and the petals kept falling. At the very center of the beam of light, the 2 figures leaned against each other and slowly lifted into the air, their bodies turned into a little fluorescent light and drifted away toward the cracks above. When it was about to dissipate, the 2 of them looked at Lin You next to them. Thank you, stranger. The voice fell, and the body completely disappeared. And where they disappeared, an irregular crystal shining with golden light appeared and slowly floated towards Lin You. Then a long-lost reminder sounded. Congratulations, you have completed the battlefield mission, Source of Plague, and the reward skill upgrade scroll, Territory, X1 has been issued to your personal space, please check it yourself. If it was before, Lin You would definitely be very excited about this prompt, and then he couldn't wait to take out the reward to check it out. But now, he was stunned in place, his eyes widened to the extreme. Together with the other lords in the square, they all stopped and looked at him. Do not. To be precise, it should be looking at the irregular crystal floating in the air. One by one, breathing quickly, endless greed appeared in his eyes. Because of that crystal. It is a genuine piece of Godhead. A Godhead fragment that can only be possessed by lords above the 10th rank. How can that be? At this time, Lin You was shocked to the extreme. He never thought that the ultimate reward of Battlefield number 1 would be a Godhead fragment that even the 10th rank lord would hang over. Looking at the constantly changing form, and the dazzling golden light circulating on it, isn't it the same as the one he had seen outside the main city before? No wonder. No wonder those lords were so eager to enter the palace, even at the risk of being stuck in their ranks. It was for this thing. As long as you get it, it is equivalent to having the key to rise to the 10th order, and any lord will be crazy about it. Lin You naturally knew this truth. After the shock, without even thinking about it, he put the fragments of Godhead, together with the faith orb, into his personal space, then turned around and ran away. Not good. The fragments were taken away by him. Come on. Don't let him run away. Want to take the shards away? No way. Stop him. At this moment, the lords were completely fried. One by one, their eyes were on fire, and they chased after them with their troops. Under the huge temptation of Godhead fragments, they were no longer afraid of Lin Yu's strength. What's more, Lin Yu just went through a big battle, and the troops around him suffered heavy losses. How could he be able to stop the siege of so many lords? Luolei, you two wait for a chance to hide, don't mind me. Lin Yu, who was fleeing, said directly to the two Luolei beside him. Those unquestionable words immediately shocked the two of them. Okay, boss Lin Yu, be careful yourself. After he finished speaking, he left the team in the chaos and ran to the small alley beside the square to hide. Because they knew very well that in this case, staying behind would only be a hindrance to Lin Yu, and would not be of any help at all. And Lin Yu quickly gathered the remaining arms to his side, fled to the direction of the harem where no one was blocking the way, and quickly counted the losses of the arms. After the battle just now, the number of his death flowers dropped sharply to less than 500, and even more than half of the proliferating troops were lost, and more than a dozen of their bodies were damaged. The only thing that is fortunate is that the royal troops and the two piranhas with undead domain skills are all fine, that is, the foundation is still there. In that case, then he would have nothing to fear. Before noon arrives, first collect a wave of interest and return to the blood. After thinking about it, he took the plants into the harem of the palace and let the plants hide. Quick! Just ahead, he can't run very far. Several fast-paced lords left the main force and came to the place where Lin Yu had just been, and searched everywhere. But they didn't notice that a vine had already surrounded them against the corner of the wall. It wasn't until they were more than 10 meters away that they suddenly burst out. Careful! A lord exclaimed, wanting to remind his companions. But still a step too late. Just listening to a few swishing sounds, the vines instantly penetrated the body of a beast lord, killing him on the spot. Kill the 6th order lord of the alien plane, get 180,000 mana, and the 6th order territory essence X1. It was easy to get 180,000 mana. And after the death of the beast lord, dozens of troops around him quickly reborn as flowers of death, attacking the remaining lords. As soon as those lords wanted to retreat, they were immediately submerged by the plants emerging from all directions and dragged into the courtyard on one side. What? A shrill scream came from the courtyard. The expressions of the lords who came from behind changed, and they looked at the vine-covered courtyard in the distance. He's over there. Run after him. The sound fell, and a large number of flying units suddenly flew high into the sky, instantly locking the yard. In an instant, an attack from the sky appeared and crashed into the yard, razing the yard to the ground. However, before they could be happy, a vine rushed out from under their feet. Puff! Several more lords were penetrated through the body, and the blood flowers exploded. Lin You took the ivy body and appeared in another intact palace. At this time, Qingting has already sucked the blood of those lords and troops just now. Unlike the poisonous blood of those zombies, this kind of fresh blood has greatly activated its frenzy skills. Not only the vines around the body are dyed with a layer of crimson, but also the attributes have soared to nearly 3,000 points. The vines spread out all around, covering almost the entire palace inside and outside. He's here! The lords exclaimed and turned around to surround Lin Yu's palace. In the team, there were even quite a few troops that had reached the 8th rank, all of them were tyrannical, and they attacked Lin Yu and Qingting without hesitation. For a time, a violent explosion spread throughout the harem. There are constantly lords coming to hear the news, joining the ranks of the siege, trying to the fragments of the godhead in Lin Yu's hands. But gradually, they discovered that their 8th-tier troops were unable to cause much damage to Qingting, and they were all blocked outside the palace. How can it be? The lords were shocked, and they made the troops attack frantically. However, the more they attacked, the faster the vines attacked. There are constantly soldiers falling under the attack of the vines, their blood is drained, and the corpses are even transformed into flowers of death. The more you fight, the stronger you get. Even from time to time, some lords were attacked to death by the thorny vines that suddenly appeared, and together with the troops, they all became food for piranhas. Something's wrong. His troops seem to be getting stronger. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Finally, a lord found the clue and looked at the green vines, dancing wildly, and the piranhas growing from the corpse. Several of them saw that the situation was not good, and immediately hurriedly retreated with the troops. Want to leave? Since they've all come, let's all stay. Lin You sneered. The ivy, whose attributes had grown to more than 3,000, finally broke out completely. Hearing the sound of boom, the palace where it was located collapsed instantly, and the gathered vines quickly spread out. And Qing Gang, whose power of nature had recovered, also let out a roar, increasing all the attributes of all plants by 30%. In an instant, the plant legion turned its offensive and madly rushed into the surrounding arms and the lord team. Under the crushing of absolute attributes, those lords suddenly collapsed, and the screams continued one after another. Kill the 6th Order Lord of the Alien Plane, get 190,000 mana, and the 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Kill the 6th Order Lord of the Alien Plane, get 170,000 mana, and the 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Kill the 6th Order Lord of the Alien Plane, get 240,000 mana, and the 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Really? None of the lords who can live to the last day are fuel-efficient lamps, and they all carry at least 100,000 magical energy. Only a few minutes. Lin Yu's magic energy has skyrocketed from more than 2 million to an exaggerated level of more than 4 million. And Qingting is also killing more and more crazy. Even without the savage roaring bonus, its attributes have risen to an extremely terrifying level, and in the end, even the ordinary 8th Order can't break through its defenses. Kill. Not one left. Lin Yu's face was dark, and he took Qingting to frantically hunt down the scattered lord. Last time. Other realms deprived the original realm of luck. Now is the time to give them a taste of deprivation. Especially after seeing the fate of all his luck being deprived, he didn't hold back any more. With every command, several lords will die under the attack of the plants. The lord's team that was still menacing was also completely dispersed, and it was impossible to organize an effective offensive at all. Lin Yu sneered in his heart. These lords were originally from different realms, so how could they share the same hatred? Originally, at the beginning, they were united, and they could kill his plant army before it took shape. But now, there is no chance. Seeing that the lords fell under the attack of the plants, the surrounding lords who did not know why, and did not know what the godhead fragments were also frightened, and hurriedly took their troops away from here. For fear of being involved in this battle. It went on like this until nearly half an hour, when the chasing lords had basically been killed. A familiar reminder finally sounded in the minds of all the surviving lords. Congratulations, all lords, for successfully surviving for 3 days on the battlefield of 10,000 realms. The battle of 10,000 worlds is over, and the teleportation is about to start. Please prepare your lords. Time is up. The battle is over. Great, we can go back. It's okay, it's finally over. Hurry up and teleport. I can't wait to go back. The lords were very happy, but at the same time they were deeply afraid. This time, the battle of 10,000 realms has really happened too much. A little careless, it is possible to die on the spot, and even almost all the people on the battlefield will die. This battlefield. Really scary. Especially the two Luo lay hiding in the corner were extremely excited. After 3 days of trepidation, I can finally go back. Strange not to be excited. Even Lin You, who was chasing and killing other realm lords, gradually stopped and looked at the devastated land around him. This time, I shouldn't be deprived of luck again. While muttering to himself, I only felt a strong suction wrapping around my body. He hurriedly put a soldier token and a secondary faith orb that had just been killed by the Lord into his personal space, and then recalled the soldiers to his side. Immediately afterwards, white lights appeared one after another, covering the Lord's arms. Swish! The light lit up, and all the lords and troops disappeared on the battlefield in an instant. The 3-day 10,000 realms battlefield has finally come to an end. The other side. In the capital of the splendid empire of the original Shajia, the brilliant emperor is convening his ministers in the palace. Unexpectedly, a guard suddenly rushed in from the outside. "Your Majesty! It's not good, the big thing is bad." While shouting loudly, the guards hurriedly ran into the hall, immediately attracting the attention of the brilliant emperor and his ministers. "What's so frustrating? What a formality!" The brilliant emperor gave a low drink, and the majestic aura instantly enveloped the entire hall. The guard knelt down with a thud, his face full of fear. No, it's the fourth prince. His territorial pillar was destroyed. "What did you say?" The brilliant emperor stood up abruptly, and a vast and boundless terrifying power suddenly erupted, rushing towards the guards. In an instant, the surrounding space collapsed, and the guard was slowly lifted up by an invisible force, and his eyes burst out and struggled desperately. The entire space was almost destroyed by the aura of the body alone. "Your Majesty!" The officials on the side were all pale, struggling to resist this boundless power. It was precisely because of this shout that the great Emperor Brilliant gradually restrained his breath and stared at the guard with a sullen look on his face. "Speak. What happened?" "Pfft." The guard loosened his body and fell to the ground, then got up from the ground, and hurriedly replied, reporting to the great Emperor, "Just now, just after the end of the Battle of 10,000 Realms, the cornerstone of the fourth prince's territory suddenly shattered, and the entire territory was turned into ruins. Fourth prince, he. Fourth prince, he." Before he finished speaking, Emperor Brilliant's body exploded again, and the entire space was instantly shattered into a void, and the dragon chair behind him was turned into dust. "Follow me to see." A loud shout spread inside and outside the palace, causing the entire palace to vibrate violently. And those lords who had just returned from the battlefield also received the news of the fall of the fourth prince, causing an uproar in the empire. What's the matter? The strength of the fourth prince was actually killed? The fourth prince is the emperor's favorite son, and his strength is definitely the top in the 6th rank. Is there anyone in the same rank who can be more powerful than him? I remember that the fourth prince seems to have a rare arm of angels, the sword of the holy judge, right? Yes. It's this unit, and it has reached the 8th rank. Even this is dead. What happened to their battlefield? The lords had different opinions, and all fell into deep consternation at this horrific news. Of course, they didn't dare to talk about it on the chat channel, just in private. After all, the anger of the brilliant emperor is not something they can bear. And what they don't know is, similar things also happen in every realm. Many tier 6 top talents in the Empire Kingdom have all fallen, and only a few have survived. Although this is only a drop in the ocean for thousands of realms. But it still caused a wave of discussion, and many people were speculating about what happened on the battlefield. Unfortunately, not many lords survived from battlefield number 1. Even if there is, they only know the information of Lin You and Primordial Realm. Just looking for someone in a vast continent is like looking for a needle in a haystack. And the great emperors on the primitive continent, how can they let the lords of other realms run in and run wild? Only a reckless generation like King Xingyao would make such dangerous actions. Therefore, the discussion trend of this news did not last long, and it was gradually covered up by other news. Most still pay more attention to the high-level battlefield situation. After all, that is the key to the rise and fall of the entire continent's fortunes. And this time, outside Huangsha City. A white light lit up into the sky, and Lin You, who left the battlefield, was finally successfully teleported back to the territory. It made Shuechanggue, who had been waiting outside, excited for a while. It's back. The Lord is back. Hurry up, let's go over to meet us. With that said, they hurried to the territory. Lin You found them the first time, and did not stop them. After letting Qingting return to its position, open a way for them. Soon, Shuechanggue and Wei Gang, as well as other managers, came to him, all with undisguised excitement on their faces. Did nothing major happen during my absence? Lin Yu glanced around and asked. Although he had only been away for 3 days, the development of Huangsha City was much faster than he imagined. Not only was the building basically completed, but even the outside of the city became a lot more lively. Don't worry, Lord, when you were away, we took good care of Huangsha City's affairs. Now the outer city has been built and the population has been settled properly. Shuechanggue replied respectfully. Well, it's fine. Lin Yu nodded in satisfaction. I still have some things to do now. You go to your own business first, and I will go to you when I'm done. Okay, Lord, call us at any time, then we will go back first. After confirming that Lin Yu had returned safely, they did not disturb him anymore. After resigning, he hurriedly left the territory and continued to work on his own business. After they all left, Lin Yu took a deep breath and looked at the tree of life behind him with anticipation. Okay, it's time to count the harvest. Have to say, this trip to the battlefield of the myriad realms, he can be described as a huge harvest. Even far beyond the initial expectations, slowly came under the tree of life and took out the same thing. The first is 2 arms tokens. One is the werewolf unit that was obtained at the beginning, and the other was burst from other lords before the end of the Battle of 10,000 Realms. Army token, Succubus, Demon. Arms level, 6th order. Introduction: after use, you can unlock a demon-type succubus unit, which can be dropped. Like the werewolf, it is also an ordinary soldier. It seems that it is not easy to obtain rare arms. However, the succubus is not bad, and there should be a lot of demon lords willing to exchange it for resources. After thinking about it, Lin Yu put away the token and took out a high-level faith orb and 2 secondary faith orbs. These orbs add up to a total of 1200 faith power. Even at his current belief accumulation speed, it would take a very long time to accumulate so much. The belief of the 1002 has narrowed the distance between him and the 8th order, which is still very important to him. But he wasn't in a hurry to use it. Instead, he put it away temporarily, and then took out a golden scroll he had never seen before from his personal space. This scroll is the reward obtained after completing the battlefield mission. At that time, Lin Yu didn't pay attention because his whole heart was on the Godhead shards. Now that I take it out and watch it, I can faintly feel the extraordinariness of this thing. Especially the golden pattern on it, it is definitely the most complicated pattern he has ever seen. Is it a baby? Lin Yu is looking forward to it. This is a mission that runs through the entire battlefield, and the reward should not be too bad. After thinking about it, he quickly held his breath and opened the information interface to check it. Name: Skill Upgrade Scroll, Territory. Level: Level 6. Function: Designate a territory skill and increase its level, which is only valid for territory skills of level 6 and below. Skill Upgrade Scroll? Lin Yu was extremely puzzled and didn't quite understand the meaning of this scroll. After all, his territorial skills are only mutation and repatriation. Not always possible. Upgrading your mutant skills, right? Lin Yu laughed at himself. But gradually, his expression began to change, and his eyes were fixed on the scroll in his hand. Golem. The sound of swallowing saliva sounded, Lin Yu's pupils vibrated violently, and his breathing became a little short. Is it? Really? Surprised, he stretched out his hand tremblingly, trying to use the scroll on the mutation skill. In the next second, a prompt sounded. Do you want to use an upgrade scroll for the mutation skill? Once determined, it cannot be changed. Really? Lin You trembled fiercely in his heart, and instantly fell into ecstasy. Mutation ability can really be upgraded. He didn't dare to hesitate, and quickly replied, yes. Swish. The light comes on. Congratulations, the mutation skill has been successfully upgraded, and it has become double mutation. Please check the details in the territory. Really upgraded? Lin Yu was very excited, and hurriedly clicked on the territory interface to check the information about the mutation ability. Double mutation, active. It can consume magical energy, make the summoned unit mutate into a random summoned unit of the same level, and retain an original skill and an attribute, which can be specified, and there is a very small probability that the retained skill will occur. Mutations. This. After reading the introduction, Lin Yu's pupils instantly widened. After the upgrade, the mutation ability has an additional attribute reservation. The most important thing is the last 3 words. Can be specified. That is to say, when he mutates, he can specify to retain certain skills and attributes. This time he was really surprised. Unexpectedly, this skill that has accompanied him for so long can be upgraded. And also become so powerful. Specifying reservations means that even those skills with extremely harsh inheritance conditions can be forced to be retained. There are also properties. He can completely specify to leave the highest attribute, such as the power of the demon king dragon, the spirit of the earth spirit, the physique of the ancient war tree, and even the agility of the flower spirit. Let the mutant troops get more powerful attributes. As for the last one, there is a very small probability that the skill will mutate. This estimate will not know the real effect until practice. Lin You took a deep breath and tried to suppress his excitement. It wasn't easy, and finally he recovered. Instead of rushing to test new skills, keep checking out what's left. Needless to say, the base of the arms is definitely a huge improvement to him. But the most important thing, and what he looked forward to the most, was that thing. That Godhead shard that drives all lords crazy. Without hesitation, with a flip of his palm, an irregular crystal shining with golden light appeared in front of him, floating quietly in the air. And a different interface also appeared in his eyes. Name, Godhead Fragment. Level 10. Characteristic 1, attributes of all units are increased, number of fragments x 10%. Feature 2, the upper limit of the number of troops is increased, the number of fragments x 10%. Characteristic 3, unlock the power of rules, can control the same power of rules as the territory attribute, and increase the power, number of fragments x 10%. Characteristic 4, the soul contains divinity, the core of the territory is destroyed and can be recondensed, the Lord is no longer affected, and the condensing time is reduced by, number of fragments x 10%. Feature 5, not unlocked, requires 10th order territory. Feature 6, not unlocked, requires a 10th order territory. Introduction, fragments containing divinity, after merging with the Lord, activates various abilities. The more fragments that are fused, the stronger the ability. It is necessary for the upgrade of the 10th order territory. Note, due to voluntary giving, the soul has been bound with the host, Lin You, and can be fused regardless of level. Looking at the long list of attributes and introductions, Lin You was stunned. It was the first time he had seen such a perverted item. Not only to improve the attributes of arms, but also to increase the upper limit of the number of arms. The most important is, after fusing the Godhead fragments, you can control the power of rules. This is definitely a huge improvement for the Lord itself. These are nothing. What excites Lin You the most is the 4th attribute. Territory core destruction can be reunited. No longer has an effect on the Lord itself. This is simply his dream ability. After all, what he worries most every time he goes out is that the core of the territory is attacked by a high-level Lord. It's like a layer of shackles, locking him around the territory, not daring to go too far. And if he is attacked by a high-level lord, he has no way to escape, and can only perish with the territory. This is definitely a thorn hanging in the heart for all lords. He didn't expect that this thorn would be automatically removed when it reached the 10th rank, which was a bit unexpected. No wonder so many 9th Order lords want to obtain Godhead fragments. It is estimated that in addition to strengthening itself and improving its status, a big reason is for this. It seems that you have to be careful not to be discovered in the future. Lin You murmured softly, and his expression gradually became serious. Things like Godhead fragments are of great importance. If others know that he has it, I am afraid it will lead to death. It's okay to say that below the 7th rank, at least he can deal with it easily. But it's different for the 7th Order and above. If anyone comes, he only has the chance to escape, and he doesn't even know if he can escape. The only good thing is, in the 10,000 Realms battlefield, everyone who saw that he got the Godhead fragments had been killed, and the rest were all lords of other realms. Many had never seen the Godhead fragments, and it was difficult to find him by name. Even if they do find it, they may not dare to come across the border for a Godhead fragment. As for the 2 of Luo Lei, let alone. They don't even know what the Godhead fragments are, and even if they do, no one will believe that there is such a thing on a 6th Order lord. The only thing he needs to worry about is the investigation from the lords above the 10th Order. Because he is not sure whether the lord of that level can detect the breath of the Godhead fragments, it is better to be careful. Huh? Can you ignore level fusion? Suddenly, Lin You noticed the last line of comments on the attribute introduction. Because this Godhead shard was a voluntary gift from King Dian, it has been bound to his soul. In other words, he can fuse the Godhead fragments in advance. How can you think about it, choose to use it directly? In the next second, a reminder sounded in his mind. Do you want to fuse the Godhead fragments? Once fused, do not strip, unless the host dies, please consider carefully. Really? Lin You was overjoyed and immediately chose to confirm. In an instant, light shines, illuminating the entire territory. And the Godhead fragment in his hand slowly floated up, turning into a streamer and blending into his eyebrows. With a loud bang, Lin You only felt a vast and mysterious energy pouring into his body and pouring into his limbs. Vaguely, something in the body seemed to be broken open, and there was a sense of enlightenment, and even the surrounding things became much clearer. Then, with a thought, he suddenly stretched out a finger. Whoosh! A sharp wooden thorn suddenly shot out and shot towards a piece of iron ore in the distance. Crack! The iron ore cracked and was instantly penetrated by the wood thorns. Then he waved his hand again, and a burst of fluorescent light scattered to heal the wounds on his body. At the same time, several translucent mirror walls condensed around him to completely protect him. This is the power of rules. Lin You looked at his palm in disbelief. The few strokes just now were obviously the plant-based skills possessed by his arms. Unexpectedly, after merging the fragments of Godhead, he can actually use it. It's as if you can control the power of nature around you as you want. And the power is much stronger than the general 6th Order. Excited, Lin You began to study with great interest. After a while of healing, and a while of vine raid, he used each skill over and over again. Then he found a problem: as long as it is the skills of the arms he has, he can use it. And the effect will be boosted by 10% of Godhead fragments, and it will become stronger. In this way, he has more types of arms than others, which is also a big advantage. This is a pleasant surprise. It is estimated that other lords would never have thought that a 6th Order lord www.manganovel.com would incorporate divine fragments. So the only thing to do now is to quickly increase his level, so that his attack methods will become much stronger. Thinking of this, Lin You looked at the tree of life beside him, got up and walked over slowly. After spending so much time and going through so many things, he was finally able to raise his territory to the 7th level. There is bound to be some excitement in my heart. After taking a look at the resources that have been collected, the upgrade interface is called directly. The materials needed to upgrade the territory have been collected. Do you want to upgrade? Yes. A firm voice echoed in the territory. In the next second, the entire territory and the Tree of Life were wrapped in a dazzling light and began to change rapidly. Together with the surrounding fences, they are constantly being raised and thickened, expanding outward. What surprised Lin You was that after the Tree of Life reached the 7th level, it directly crossed a height of 100 meters and grew into a towering tree standing on the top of the mountain. At the same time, an incomparably huge breath of life spread out and instantly enveloped the entire territory, the entire Yellow Sand City, and even the Gobi outside the Yellow Sand City. Then, with a loud rumbling sound, flowers and trees of different shapes rose up from the ground, causing the entire ground to vibrate violently. What happened? What happened? The citizens and outsiders who were traveling in Huangsha City were all shocked by this sudden change and stopped, and looked up to the outside of the city. Then they were shocked to find out. Just in the blink of an eye, the large piece of desolate land outside the city was quickly covered by a dense forest, turning directly from the Gobi into a lush emerald forest. What exactly is going on? In Huangsha City, everyone's eyes widened, watching the changes outside the city. Last second. The surrounding area of Huangsha City is still covered with yellow sand, and only a few plants grow. Next second. Turned into a forest? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have even thought they hadn't woken up yet. Looking around, the entire Yellow Sand City is surrounded by a forest, directly changing from the original Yellow Sand City to a forest capital. There are huge trees tens of meters high everywhere. With the Tree of Life as the center, it spreads out all around, until several kilometers away. Above the head, there are also huge vines connected between the trees, which look lush, and the fragrance of birds and flowers is fragrant. Even on the open space of the street, many plants grow, forming beautiful scenery lines in Huangsha City. Not to mention the people were shocked. Even Lin You himself was shocked. He never imagined that after the territory was raised to the 7th rank, it would cause such a big repercussion. Not only does it affect the plants in the territory, but it also affects the outside of the territory. Is it because of the Godhead fragments? Or is it the way to upgrade to Tier 7? Lin You was full of doubts. But in the next second, his doubts were immediately interrupted by a prompt. Congratulations, the territory has been upgraded successfully, the current level, 7th order. The upper limit of the building level is unlocked, and the gate of the secret realm is opened. Unlocked territory skill, Forest Field. Forest Domain, passive. The life breath escaping from the core of the territory will forcefully change the surrounding environment and turn it into a forest. Within the forest, the physique, vitality, of all plant troops will increase by 5%. After the territory was upgraded to the 7th level, many functions were also unlocked, and new skills were also learned. Forest Realm. That means, no matter where he moves his territory in the future, that place will become a forest? This is a very good skill, at least you don't have to worry about being restricted by environmental factors. And fighting in the forest, the vitality of his plant units will also increase, giving the willow another gain aura. Even, it is not impossible to build a kingdom on the tree in the forest. Thinking of this, Lin You took advantage of the situation and clicked on the upgraded territory interface to check it out. Territory name, World Tree. Territory level, 7th order, 67/5000. Territory durability, 5000/5000, plus 2000. Recruiting troops, Plant Department. Number of recruits, 104/250, plus 25. Introduction to territory. The survival of the Lord is fundamental and has various functions. Upgrade requirements, magic energy, 6.32 million/100, 000, 7th order territorial essence, 0/20, natural origin, 0/1. Note, the embryonic form of the world tree requires the power of belief to irrigate. After reaching a certain level, it will evolve into a world and detach from the world. World tree? Lin You was stunned. Staring blankly at the core of the territory that has changed a name on the interface. After crossing the 6th order, the Tree of Life has actually become the Tree of the World. Although it was only a prototype, it surprised him very much. Could it be that, if he continues to upgrade, the core of his territory will really become a world of its own, detached from the world? It's really possible. After all, the 11th Order Lord is already so terrifying, and the 12th Order is afraid that it is not far from becoming a world of its own? Certainly. The premise is that he can rise to that level. Thinking of the harsh conditions for upgrading to Tier 12, the fire that had just ignited in Lin Yu's heart was instantly extinguished. He is only at the 7th rank now, and he is still 5 ranks away from the 12th rank. What's more, the further back you go, the more difficult it is to upgrade. Want to stand on the top of this continent? Easier said than done? It is better to honestly accumulate resources to develop the territory. Laughing at himself, Lin You cast aside these unrealistic thoughts and continued to look at the materials needed to upgrade the territory to the 8th rank. Fortunately, the territorial essence required for the upgrade has only doubled, and 20 efforts should still be able to save it. And what surprised him was that the upgrade of the territory after the 7th Order no longer required the basic materials of wood and ore, but an additional thing called natural origin. Just like the fact that the 3rd Order rose to the 4th Order has more territorial essence. At a glance, you can tell that it is something that is not easy to get. But what hurts Lin Yu's liver the most is the power of faith. A full 5,000 points. Even if those few faith orbs are used up, it is only 1/5 of it. It's really a long way to go. However, Lin Yu was not too worried about this. After all, on this trip to the battlefield of Myriad Realms, he directly obtained more than 6 million mana, enough for him to expand his territory several times. And he still has 2 arms tokens in his backpack, which is a lot of money to sell. Forget it, let's build the army base first. Lin Yu didn't forget that there was one important thing he didn't do. After closing the territory interface, he took out the troop base blueprint from his personal space and came to the newly expanded open space in the territory. The construction resources have met the requirements. Do you want to build? Yes. As a response fell, the architectural drawings in Lin Yu's hand turned into a large ray of light, covering the open space in front of him. For a time, the sand was flying, and a building like an altar rose from the ground. Then, in a rumbling vibration, the stone platforms carved with the images of various arms slowly rose up and formed a circle on the altar. Lin Yu observed it, and these are all the arms he currently has. That is to say, every time he has a soldier, there will be an additional stone platform on the altar, which is used to place the secret treasure of the soldier, and the stone platform where the military treasures are placed. The corresponding troops will also get the buffs of the treasures. Building name, Arms Base. Building level, 2nd Order, 67/5000. Architecture introduction, each type of arms can be strengthened, and the effects will be different depending on the type of arms that are placed in them. Number of treasures, 0/40. Like the Temple of Blessing, the level of the arm base also increases with the level of faith. Now Lin Yu's belief has been upgraded to the 2nd stage, which is the 2nd stage. If there is a chance in the future to get a treasure with several attributes similar to the relic of the territory, you can directly unlock 2 attributes. Now, he can only use the E-level secret treasure he just got. Army treasure, Unyielding Heart. Treasure type, Special. Treasure level, E-level. Treasure effect, after a unit is fatally wounded, there is a 5% chance that it will not die immediately and will be immune to all damage for 5 seconds. Introduction, the secret treasure used to strengthen arms can be used in arm bases to strengthen a single type of arm. Lin You took out the crystal heart in his personal space and walked slowly into the altar. After thinking about it for a while, he went straight to the stone pillar representing the Dryad class and placed it on it. After all, a skill like this 5-second Real Man is most suitable for melee combat in the front row. Although he really wanted to give the Flower of Immortality, it did not belong to the category of arms, and there was no way to increase it. It is only valid unless it is the kind of secret treasure that is specially written to increase the summons of the troops. Would you put the secret treasure into the Dad branch slot? Once it is put in, the corresponding troops will receive a treasure buff and can be replaced at any time. The replacement requires magic energy, yes. With Lin Yu's response, the secret treasure in his hand suddenly lit up with a ray of light and slowly floated towards the tree spirit stone platform. Immediately afterwards, a prompt for successful placement sounded. Lin You quickly stepped down from the altar to check the properties of Qinggang and other ancient trees. Sure enough, there is one more gain state. Unyielding heart. After being fatally wounded, there is a 5% chance of not dying immediately and being immune from all damage for 5 seconds. Not bad. This skill may be nothing to other lords, but it is very good for him, because the number of his troops is far more than that of the lords of the same level. And after getting the bonus of Godhead fragments, there are 25 more. This number will also increase as the level increases, and it is no longer a dream to create an army of thousands of tree spirits. With this lofty goal in mind, Lin You casually clicked on the chat channel. Because of the return of the lords, the originally quiet channel began to gradually become lively at this time. Haha, come back, I finally managed to come back alive. Brothers, how is this battle going? I killed more than 20, 10 more than last time. The same is true for me. I was assigned to a weak chicken battlefield, killed nearly 40, and was lucky enough to grab a battlefield treasure. What the hell? So it seems that we don't need to be deprived of luck in the primitive world? It's hard to say, it depends on the battle situation of the high-level battlefield. Never mind, I'll kill him anyway, haha. The lords talked a lot, all venting their excitement after the safe return. Lin You took a look and found that most of them were enunciations, and only a few were unlucky enough to die of many troops. It seems that this battle is much better than the last time. Lin You smiled slightly and continued to read the chat messages of the lords at this moment. A prompt suddenly sounded in the minds of all the lords. Congratulations to the lords, due to the good performance of the primitive realm in the 10,000 realms battlefield this time, the luck has recovered. Click. There was a sound in the sky. The crack that originally hung over the primitive continent gradually closed and returned to its original state. In an instant, the chat channel was fried. Fuck. The crack is closed. The deprived luck has been restored. Haha, cows, brothers. It's not bad for me to work so hard, it's worth it this time. It's okay, I don't have to worry about the destruction of the continent. It seems that the situation on the high-level battlefield is also very good. It can be said. The appearance of this prompt and the disappearance of the crack really made all the lords of the primitive realm heave a sigh of relief. The knife that had been hanging in his heart finally fell down completely, making the atmosphere of the entire chat channel cheerful. In contrast, the Yuansha realm wasn't so lucky. Because at the same time that the primitive world received the good news, they also received the prompt. Lords, please note that due to the poor performance of Yuansha continent in the battlefield of Wanjia this time, the luck has been deprived. How is it possible? How can our luck in the original Shajia be deprived of? Could it be that something happened in the high-level battlefield? Look at the sky. It's cracked. How come? At this moment, the entire primordial demon realm shook. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the huge crack that appeared above the sky. It was like an open mouth that was going to devour their entire continent. The drastic changes in the original world did not have much impact on the original world. All the lords are excitedly discussing the encounters and gains of this battle of 10,000 realms. There were constant messages flashing across the chat channel, almost to the point of being unsightly to the naked eye. And this time, in the capital of the Great Wilderness, Ji Xinghe, who rushed back from the Wanjia battlefield, also quickly finished the matter at hand, and summoned a group of Ninth Order men and Ji Yunshuang to discuss matters in the palace. Your Majesty, our primitive realm has won a great victory, this time in the Battle of 10,000 Realms. Basically, every battlefield uploads good news. A Ninth Order Lord said excitedly. Indeed, our Ninth Order battlefield has also killed many lords of other realms. Another lord spoke immediately. This time, our primitive realm finally gave out a bad breath. That's right. The other lords also responded one after another. The whole palace became much busier than usual. Jixing has sat on the throne, like a spring breeze, with a faint smile on his face. Yeah, this time, because of our preparations, we gathered people from the same realm for the first time, and did not let people from other realms take advantage. So, Dad, your battlefield is also very smooth, right? Ji Yunchuan on the side couldn't help but ask. As soon as these words came out, the group of ministers immediately stopped talking and looked at Ji Xinghe. Ji Xinghe didn't hide it because he was in a very good mood. Yes, this time, we successfully killed 2 10th order opposites, and I just received news from other kings that they also killed 1 or 2 more or less. A 10th order, but the most important thing is King Xingyao. In the middle of speaking, Ji Xinghe paused. When the officials below heard the words, they swallowed suddenly, their faces full of curiosity and anticipation. Seeing their appearance, Ji Xinghe smiled. It is said that King Xingyao killed an 11th order lord of the Yuansha realm this time. Boom! All the ministers were shocked, and their eyes instantly widened. Holy King! Killed an 11th order lord? And it's still the original evil world. This is too fierce. No wonder, the king has been overjoyed since he came back, and the smile on his face has never stopped. It really surprised them. After all, after the 10th rank, it is not easy to kill the lord of the same rank, let alone the 11th rank. It is definitely a continental pillar-like existence. No wonder their luck recovered so quickly this time. It turned out to be because of this. Under the shock, Ji Yunchuan, who was beside the throne, finally couldn't help but ask, "Father, are you telling the truth? There are so many methods for an 11th tier lord. If he wants to escape, it should be difficult to stop him, right?" The voice fell, and all the ministers below looked over at the same time, having the same question as Ji Yunchuan. Unexpectedly, Ji Xinghe suddenly chuckled. "No, you underestimate King Xingyao. Although King Xingyao has a hot temper, his strength is not comparable to that of ordinary 11th order lords." "Why?" Ji Yunchuan asked again, which could be regarded as asking the doubts of the ministers, and became more concentrated. When Ji Xinghe received their attention, he took a deep breath and said, "Because King Xingyao, he now has 9 11th order godhead fragments, even if he is only 1 step away from the emperor. It's just far away. 9 godhead fragments. So much?" The ministers were completely shocked, and Ji Yunchuan, who was beside the throne, also trembled violently, unable to believe it. They are very clear about what the 9 godhead fragments are. That is to kill 9 11th order lords to collect them all. That is the 11th order lord. What kind of terrifying strength does this have to have? It was only at this time that they finally had a clear understanding of the strength of King Xingyao. Then, someone thought of something and suddenly asked, "If you say that, after killing the lord of Yuansheji this time, didn't King Xingyao meet the conditions for becoming an emperor?" As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked, and their expressions became a little different. "That's right." Without giving them much thought, Ji Xinghe's response came from above. I saw his face was dark, and he said with a slight trembling, "Although it is too early to say this, but with the ability of King Xingyao, it should not take long to take that step, and by then, it will definitely happen to us duchies. It's not a small change, and that's why I'm looking for you." The king's meaning is that King Xingyao wants to choose a successor. Immediately, a 9th order lord realized the key, and his heart trembled violently. If King Xingyao really succeeded in becoming emperor, he would definitely have to train an 11th order subordinate to take care of his affairs, and the people who are most likely to be selected are the remaining 7 duchy kings. After all, many people know that King Xingyao currently has no heirs. So to say, if the king is chosen as the successor, will they, the 9th tier lords, have a chance to ascend to the 10th tier throne? The 9th order lords below were very excited. You must know that there are now 3 vacant duchy kings in the kingdom of Xingyao. Counting the king who may become the heir, that's 4 positions. the opportunity can be said to be very large. It's no wonder that King Xingyao has not promoted a new duchy king. It seems that there are considerations in this regard. That's all. With excitement, Ji Xinghe and his ministers began to discuss various preparations, and by the way, summarized the situation of their respective battlefields. Until mid-afternoon. The ministers left the palace one after another and rushed back to their respective territories, leaving only Ji Xinghe and his daughter to stay in the palace. Okay, when things are done, it's time to award this battlefield reward. As Ji Xinghe spoke, he clicked on a principality management interface. The above is densely counted the number of kills of the lords in the duchy, this time in the battlefield of 10,000 worlds, from the 6th to the 9th order, from high to low. Father, let's see where I am in the 6th rank this time. No one was around. Ji Yunshuang also returned to her young daughter's attitude, and hurriedly got to Ji Xinghe's side to check the list with him. Okay, let's see if you're in a hurry. Have you made a lot of contributions this time? Ji Xinghe gave Ji Yunshuang a doting glance. Of course, I killed more than 100 enemies this time, so I should at least be in the top 10. Ji Yunshuang raised his head proudly. With her strength, it shouldn't be a problem to be ranked in the top 10 of the principality. But what she didn't expect was that Ji Xinghe didn't speak anymore, but instead looked at the interface with a surprised expression. Father, what's wrong? Ji Yunshuang asked in doubt, and also looked at the interface. When he saw the first place on the 6th order list, the number of kills as high as 600, he instantly showed the same expression as Ji Xinghe, even more violent. How come? Ji Yunshuang stretched out her hand to cover her soft lips, her beautiful eyes shocked to the extreme. Looking up, he saw a name that was so familiar that he could no longer be familiar. First place, Lin You, Yellow Sand City, kills 605. Second place, Yan Rang, Mo Yucheng, kills 122. Third place, Qiu Chongqing, Maple Leaf City, 120 kills. Fourth place, Ji Yunshuang, Feixia City, kills 119. A full 5 times the difference. Even the number of kills from the 2nd to the 5th added up is not as much as the first. And the one who did this was the Lin You she knew. Not to mention Ji Yunshuang, even Ji Xinghe himself was very surprised, staring at the name above and looking at it. Finally, it was confirmed that it was the Lin You he knew. Good boy, he killed so many. It seems that I underestimated him. With his strength, he should be assigned to the first 10 battlefields, right? How can he still have so many kills? Ji Yunshuang still had a little understanding of the rules of the Wanjie battlefield, so he was shocked to the extreme by Lin Yu's kill count. However, she and Ji Xinghe didn't know. Lin Yu was indeed assigned to the top 10 battlefields. However, it was higher than their expectations, and it was directly assigned to the number 1 battlefield known as the Death Zone, and all the top 6th order geniuses from all walks of life were killed. This quality is more than a star and a half worse than other battlefields. But these have nothing to do with Lin Yu. Because he has now risen to the 7th rank, he is completely insulated from the low-level battlefield of the 6th rank. And just when Lin Yu stayed in the territory to study new things, a prompt suddenly sounded in his mind. Congratulations, you performed well in this Wanjie battlefield and won the king's reward. Acquired 600,000 mana, and obtained the essence of the 7th order territory X6, which has been distributed to the territory resources. Please go and check by yourself. Huh? Did the king issue a reward so soon? Lin Yu was surprised to open the resource interface, and sure enough, there were 600,000 mana and 6 7th order territorial essences. It's not much, but it's also worth a lot of money. Especially the essence of the 7th order territory, but it is extremely difficult to get. This time I got 6 rewards, which is really generous. Without thinking too much, after closing the interface, I walked into the teleportation array with 2 arms tokens and an angelic territorial relic, and teleported to the main city. When he thinks about it, today is the end of the Wanjie battlefield. There should be many lords coming over to shoot all kinds of rare resources, and maybe they can get some good treasures. As expected. As soon as he arrived in the main city, he was shocked by the lively scene around him. Wherever the eyes go, there are all the lords coming and going, a picture of a crowd of people. The small stalls have been extending from the edge of the square to the end of the street. Come and take a look. The best treasures I just got from the battlefield of 10,000 realms are all available. Buy a large number of battlefield treasures. The price is absolutely right. Come here with intention. One of the buildings out of the territory, for other battlefield treasures, come and see. Do not miss passing through. Don't say it yet. The whole street was full of fiery atmosphere, and it looked like it was Chinese New Year. There are many more lords who have the same idea of shopping for goods as Lin You, walking between the stalls, or haggling loudly with the stall owner, and there are fierce noises everywhere. Lin You simply strolled around the street. It is found that many lords are bartering, and do not support simple magic energy purchases. Even if they do, they are ridiculously expensive. After walking around for a while, he was finally attracted by a shout. Shoot a plant-based weapon token, exchange it for other battlefield treasures. If you are interested, come. Plant troops? Lin Yu stopped and looked in the direction of the sound. Although he is not short of arms now, he doesn't believe that someone will sell rare arms on the street. But he was still drawn to it. After all, it's about plants, so he's more interested in it than anything else. So soon, he came to the booth. Brother, the token of the plant system, come and see? When the hawking lord saw Lin Yu, his eyes suddenly lit up. On the booth in front of him, there was a token engraved with a plant pattern, and at a glance it could be seen that it was just an ordinary military token. Lin Yu was a little disappointed. As for ordinary troops, he could get them out through mutation. But despite this, he couldn't help but look at the token's information. Army token, Lucky Clover, plant. Arms level, 6th order. Introduction to arms, a very rare plant arm, advanced from clover, every 3rd level, a leaf will be awakened. It is said that when all 4 leaves are awakened, they will be favored by the goddess of luck. Huh? It turned out to be a plant soldier he had never seen before? Lin Yu was immediately attracted by the information in front of him. At first glance, the above introduction is quite good, but also quite bluffing. The most important thing is that he does not have this kind of troops. That's right. He cannot use the plants of the plant system, but he can't live without it. Moreover, he had never seen this type of soldier after the mutation so many times before. It was obviously a special type of type, just like the ancient tree of knowledge. Either it is not in the mutation list, or the probability of the mutation appearing is extremely low. No matter what, it is worth him to start this army. After thinking about it, he raised his head and looked at the stall owner. How do you plan to sell this unit? Do you really want to buy it? This time, it was the stall owner's turn to be surprised. He thought that Lin Yu was just looking at it casually, but he didn't react for a while. What? Is there something wrong with this unit? Lin Yu narrowed his eyes slightly and noticed a trace of abnormality. Seeing his suspicion, the stall owner admitted it generously. There is indeed a problem, and I will not hide it from you. I have seen this unit once before, and it is a bit strange. Oh? What kind of weird trick? Lin Yu is interested. That's right, its attributes are very low. Only half of the same rank troops, and the skills are also very strange. There are 4 strengthening skills in the 1st rank, which strengthen the 4-dimensional attributes respectively, and the strengthening effect of each awakened leaf will increase 10%, although it barely reaches the same level, but the attack method is not very good, only the ordinary flying leaf attack. It is not easy to upgrade. The stall owner shrugged and was very candid. After all, skills like this are all units that increase a single attribute, and few lords really want it. But he didn't know. After listening to his introduction, Lin Yu's eyes lit up instantly. Attribute increasing skills. And it's still a 10% increase every 3rd order. This may be garbage for other lords, but for him, it is simply a magical skill. Because he can completely use the mutation ability to inherit this enhanced skill to other arms. Suppressing the throbbing in his heart, he said, "Okay, I want this unit, how do you plan to change it?" "Are you sure?" the stall owner asked in astonishment. "Sure, but since its skills are not very good, you have to give me some rebates, right?" The corner of Lin Yu's mouth rose slightly. "It's natural." The stall owner nodded. "I plan to exchange this token for another token, as long as it is anything other than the plant type and the demon type. I can use points and magic energy to make up for the difference." "Anything other than the plant type and the demon type?" Lin Yu murmured silently. After thinking for a while, he took out the werewolf token from his personal space. "What do you think of this? Is this a humanoid werewolf?" The stall owner's eyes lit up. "This is a rare good soldier." Surprised, he couldn't help but look at Lin Yu more, but he didn't expect that he would actually be able to take out the arms token to exchange with him. After pondering for a while, he said, "According to the current market, the common arms of the 6th rank are worth about 1.2 million magic energy, and there is still no market for it, so I will supply you with 10,000 points and 200,000 magic energy. What do you think?" A 6th order ordinary token. The exchange price is 120,000 points plus 60,000 mana, which is almost 1.2 million. Obviously, he still has a very good understanding of the price of the main city. It was possible to come up with a plan so quickly. Lin Yu thought about it for a while and thought it was reasonable, so he nodded and replied, "Yes." "Okay, let's trade then." The stall owner directly sent a trade invitation to Lin Yu. After a while, the two completed the transaction and got what they wanted. Pleasant to work with. Pleasant to work with. The two looked at each other and smiled, feeling joyful in their hearts, feeling that they had earned it. And Lin Yu, who had changed things, didn't stop, and continued to hang out on the street. But unfortunately, after wandering around for an hour, he couldn't find anything else that was useful to him. In the end, he had to go home and teleport back to the territory. Glancing at the sun that was gradually setting in the west, he quickly came under the world tree. "Do you want to use army token, Lucky Clover?" "Use." The sound fell. The 4-leaf clover token he just got in his hand turned into a streamer and merged into the world tree. Then he opened the troop recruitment panel and recruited directly. Swish. The light comes on. A 4-leaf clover grew rapidly, reaching the height of half a person in a blink of an eye. 4 sharp leaves are tightly connected, swaying from side to side with the breeze. Name, Lucky Clover. Race, plant. Level 6, 0/500. Strength, 250, plus 50. Physique, 250, plus 50. Agility, 250, plus 50. Spirit, 250, plus 50. Skills, Protection of Strength, Strength attribute increased by 20%, Constitution Protection, Physical attribute increased by 20%. Agility Protection, Agility attribute increased by 20%, Spiritual Protection, Mental attribute increased by 20%. Introduction, a very rare plant that awakens a leaf every 3rd tier. It is said that when all 4 leaves are awakened, they will be blessed by the goddess of luck. Exactly what the stall owner said. The skills of this unit are all attribute protection, and the attributes are also weak enough to explode. But this means something different to Lin Yu. Because he can use these skills to create a variety of powerful units with different attributes. For example, the ancient war tree with the highest physique in the front row, after inheriting the protection of physique, the physique attribute can directly increase by 20%. Even after reaching the 7th level, this value will increase to 30%. It is equivalent to permanently obtaining a weakened version of Savage Roar. And don't forget, there are many percentage aura gains in his territory. Once the basic attributes of the arms become higher, under the addition of percentages, it will definitely reach a very exaggerated level. So without thinking much, Lin Yu directly used mutation on the 4-leaf clover in front of him. The mutation of the 6th order troops needs to consume 250 points of mana. Do you want to continue? Continue. Please choose to retain skills and retain attributes. Retain the protection of power, the attributes are not retained. Lin You replied without thinking. Immediately after, the four-leaf clover was wrapped in a soft light and began to change rapidly. After a while, it turned into a sixth-order piranha with its mouth split into 4 petals. Name, Overlord Piranha. Race, Plant. Level 6, 0/500. Strength, 420, plus 84. Physique, 450. Agility, 278. Spirit, 390. Skills, Protection of Power, Devour, Corrosive Wood Spike. Introduction: the King of Flowers can devour corpses and recover his injuries very quickly. Good guy. The Strength attribute directly crossed the 6th order full value, reaching an exaggerated level of 504. Even when Qing Gang and Demon King Dragon were at the 6th rank, they didn't have such abnormal attributes. Not to mention after rising to the 7th rank, the improvement will definitely be even greater. It just so happens that he now has a lot of recruiting positions, so he can mutate and multiply troops while leaving a little space to go out the elite line, specializing in creating some powerful troops with extreme attributes. Otherwise, sometimes it is easy to be overwhelmed by powerful arms if there is no quality based on quantity alone. After thinking about it, Lin You recruited a 4-leaf clover again and continued to mutate. And with the designated reservation, he no longer has to worry about the skills he doesn't want left, which is extremely convenient. In this way, the number of troops around him began to gradually increase in the mutation. There are tree spirits specializing in physique, cactus boxers specializing in strength, or flower demons specializing in spirit. Until the mutation of more than 40 troops. It was finally interrupted by a prompt. The mutation is successful, triggering the additional effect of mutation ability, and the skill Spirit Protection mutates. Skill mutated? Lin You was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect to trigger the extra effect of mutation ability so quickly. Quickly click on the properties of the Blood Enchantress who just mutated to check it out. Name, Blood Demon Girl. Race, Plant. Level 6, 0/500. Strength, 400. Physique, 410. Agility, 335. Spirit, 380, plus 76. Skills, Mental Disturbance, mental attribute increases by 20%, there is a chance to disrupt the enemy spirit when attacking, making it impossible to avoid attacks. Poison Ivy Whip, Blood Poison Mist. Introduction: plants that like to blood are extremely aggressive and will frantically attack all enemies around them. As predicted. After triggering the mutation effect, Mental Protection directly mutates into Mental Disturbance, not to mention the effect of retaining attributes, but there is also an additional Mental Disturbance, which is absolutely necessary for sneak attacks and cannot be prevented. Excited, Lin You continued to mutate again, and finally stopped when he reached the 50th combat arm. These 50 elite combat arms will be the focus of his future training, but now, he has one more important thing to do. That is to use other troops with high attributes to create symbiotic moss. That's right. He didn't forget that the mutant ability after the upgrade can choose to retain an attribute. In other words, he can let the mutated symbiotic moss inherit one of the highest attributes, and then symbiotically grow on other plants. It's like getting double the attributes. This is where the mutant ability after the upgrade is truly terrifying. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.